in the heart of the Ottoman Empire, at a time when chaos ruled the streets and whispers of rebellion echoed through the corridors of Topkapi Palace. A young boy was thrust into a throne far too heavy for his age. Murad IV, only 12 years old, became Sultan in 1623, but the empire he inherited was far from the glorious legacy of Suleiman the Magnificent. Instead, he opened his eyes to an empire breaking from within. Corrupt officials drained the treasury, janissaries defied orders in broad daylight, and bandits controlled the streets of Istanbul. Even the palace walls trembled at the sound of conspiracies. Everyone ruled except the Sultan himself. In the shadows behind the throne stood powerful figures. His mother Kozum Sultan, ambitious viziers, and generals who believed they were the true masters of the empire. But Murad IV was watching. Behind his calm face, a storm was building. The empire saw a child, but that child was silently memorizing every betrayal, every weakness, every fault that had turned the empire into a breeding ground of fear and corruption. As Murad grew, the empire's problems grew with him. Janissaries murdered grand viziers they disliked. Provincial governors acted as kings of their own lands. Entire regions refused to pay taxes. The once mighty Ottoman Empire was sinking into the abyss. But something unexpected happened. The quiet boy who never spoke began to transform. His voice deepened, his gaze hardened, and a terrifying determination took shape. Murad IV was no longer content with being a puppet. He would reclaim the empire, or burn down anyone who stood in his way. At the age of 18, Murad IV seized absolute power. And when he did, Istanbul felt the quake of his wrath. One by one, the men who controlled the empire in his childhood were seized. Corrupt pashas, rebellious janissaries, and treacherous viziers were executed without mercy. The palace that once whispered about him now feared even the sound of his footsteps. He was no longer a boy. He was a storm the empire desperately needed. The streets of Istanbul had long been drowning in crime. Murad IV personally patrolled the streets at night, disguised as a common man. Anyone who challenged the law met death on the spot. Those who thought they ruled the city quickly learned that their greatest enemy was now the Sultan himself. Murad banned alcohol, tobacco, coffeehouses, and gambling, all hotspots of rebellion. At night, he roamed the city's darkest alleys with a sword in hand, catching criminals unaware. Tales spread across the empire. Beware, the Sultan walks among us.